Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Matias Sports Podcast. I have Channel 7 Sports Director Morey Hershgordon. How are you, sir?
Ken, doing great, man. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to speak to me. So, I just wanted to basically talk about your career journey, how you went from Channel 12 out in East Providence to Boston, and prior to that, too. Were you in your hometown of Philly, too, working?
I was there for a couple of summers as an intern when I was in college. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, how was the transition basically from leaving home, going to East Providence, and now in a big market in Boston for like what, almost a year now?
Yeah, a little over a year now. And there was also that minor stop out in Wisconsin, in between Philadelphia and Providence. But the journey's been great. It's been everything I could have hoped and dreamed for. I mean, getting into it, you're going to cover sports, you're going to cover all different levels. You get into it hoping to cover some of the biggest and brightest stars and
Hmm.
games. Have been fortunate enough to have an opportunity to do a lot of that, and a lot of wild news as well. A lot of just you know passionate fan bases, interesting athletes, Hall of Fame coaches, Hall of Fame players. I mean, you name it. Uh, it's been a little while now, and I've been fortunate to move up the ranks a little bit, and get to experience some awesome games and awesome things. So I'm really fortunate for the last 7+ years now, and I'm still though just getting out of the batter's box in my career. So have a lot more I want to accomplish, and looking forward to it all.
That's awesome. I mean, seeing you on Channel 12, you were just, saying that you remembered me and my dad. Obviously, you spoke to us at Top Shelf, and I think it was 2018, honestly. I still tell people that story, you interviewed my dad and stuff like that. But on your journey, what's been like the highlights and the highs and lows of basically breaking into sports broadcasting, sports reporter, and with the people you've worked with, and now you're in a director position, which is pretty impressive, especially at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many. It'd be really hard to come up on the
Narrow.
spot. I feel like I'd miss something if I tried to come up with a short list right now. But I rarely look back at kind of all the highs. There's times during a vacation or so, you kind of look back at a few months here or there, or how grateful or lucky you've been to do certain things. But just broadly and generically, I mean, going out to Wisconsin for my first job and being able to cover the Green Bay Packers. First live shot was at the U.S. Open at Aaron Hills outside of Milwaukee was tremendous, and covering some great athletes in the state of Wisconsin. I was covered Sam Hauser's younger brother Joey. Got to know the Hauser family pretty
Wow.
well, and how small of a world is it that a few years later I was in Providence, and I'm covering him and I'm covering Sam and Joey when they played for Marquette against Providence. And then I'm here in Boston, and Sam's this important piece off the bench, one of the best 3-point shooters in the
Yep.
NBA. And I'm seeing his family just like I was back covering the guys when they were in high school. And now Sam's a huge piece to winning an NBA championship. So, the people you meet along the way are definitely some of the best memories I have. You've got cool interviews and you've got great games and you've got certain memories, but the people you meet along the way and the people that you work with truly are what makes this job special. Every day is different, and I think that's what's so fun about this industry is some days you're out in the field, some days you're in house. Some days you're covering a parade. Some days you're covering, a coach getting fired. I mean, you really never know what you're going to cover, and just waking up with that excitement every day, not knowing what's going to happen. It's not your normal 9 to 5 job when you sit down at a cubicle and you kind of know what's going to happen, throughout the day for much of the time throughout the year. I mean, here we're always moving, whether it's football season, then soon enough we'll be into hockey and basketball. Baseball season will come back around, and then we'll get thrown like a Frozen Four, like we had last year with BU and BC making it. So that's the best part about being in the business, especially being in a local sports job, is really ingratiating yourself within the community you're in. And I've been in Boston a little over a year now, and it's been just a tremendous experience. A lot of great things I've gotten to cover in 12 months, and hoping we get to cover some more championships here in the near future.
It's so awesome to see how successful you've been from meeting you probably 6, 7 years ago to like 2024 September. What is it, 4th? Like it's been a journey. I've kind of followed your journey a little bit from obviously meeting you, seeing what you did at WPRI 12, which it seems like it's a great station, a lot of great people. I've never been, unfortunately, but I mean, from that to WHDH and Channel 7 in Boston, what's been like the biggest learning curve or biggest changes from going from an East Providence market to a Boston market, which is probably what, top 10?
Yeah, so I would say, and I try to tell all my interns this, and when they do want a little piece of advice, the X's and the O's part of the job is very much the same. And I try to tell people that in order to allow them to understand that, you can make it. You can rise through the ranks even at a young age, right? It's like the same stories we put together. And when I was in Wisconsin to Providence to Boston, those are all the same. The only things that are a little bit different, there's some more eyeballs watching your work, right? A little
Yeah.
bit more pressure.
Yeah.
The paycheck's like a little bit bigger than it was at the previous stop. But outside of that, you're on television, right? When there's a big story, there's breaking news, you're at a championship game, like you've got to fill the time, you've got to be prepared, you've got to know how to write, you've got to know how to interview, you've got to know how to build a rapport with athletes and the guests that you have on the air. All that stuff anybody can do. You're doing it now on this podcast. Like, if you're watching this and you're in middle school, high school, you're in your high school's TV station, you're going to be doing the same thing there as
Yeah.
I'm doing right now. It's just the platform's a little bit bigger, when if you want to get into play by play, that was a route that I decided to
Hmm.
put on pause for a little bit. Well, you're doing high school football when you're 17, 18 years old, and if you get the chance to do college or professional football as a career, the field's the same size. Many of the rules are the same. The ball is like a little bit bigger, the guys run a little bit faster, and the coaches are a little bit more experienced. But the game's the same, right? Like you're
Hmm.
calling the same game. So it's very important, in my opinion, when people do ask for advice or something, is to just to make it like it's all sort of the same, right? You don't need to make it, oh my God, I just got this huge job, I'm becoming a voice of, fill in the blank of an NBA team, an NHL team. When you get there, it's the same thing you've been doing your whole life. So if you can prepare and if you can treat those high school, those college broadcasts like they're a really big deal, once you start earning a paycheck and you become a pro, you've kind of wired your brain to be like that already. So there really hasn't been a major adjustment, other than the fact that a lot more people are watching, and they expect you to be on your game day in and day out. And you like from my perspective, I like that, right? Because it's like you got to perform, you got to do the job. That's what you're brought in to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, WPRI is probably one of the best stations in Providence. Nothing against Channel 10, Channel 6. I probably hit all of them there, right? It's only 3 or 4 stations out in Providence, Warwick area.
Yeah, just three.
So, I mean, obviously they're covering more of like the South Coast, the New Bedford area, areas I'm familiar with, but seeing like obviously Channel 7 growing up, watching it with my parents at home, watching Channel 5, interning at 5, seeing what you guys do amazed me every single day. Like my internship, to reflect on my internship from Channel 5 2 years ago, I'm like working with Bob Halloran was probably the best things I've ever done in my life. Like you learn so much, even though I was so in-house and they were under still COVID restrictions, but you learn how to game log, you learn how to do this, you do off-air skits basically, like you're on camera just for like a reel and stuff like that. It's just I appreciate what you guys do and to provide obviously the latest sports news surrounding high school, colleges, pros. It's just amazing. I mean, I don't know what else to really say about it, but it's been an industry that I've had a strong passion for. Obviously, when I met you a few years ago, I had a pleasure meeting you. You interviewed my dad. I really appreciate that. And I don't know what else to say. It's just, it seems like it's all caked up for what it is, basically. And people do it for many, many years and they retire happily ever after. So you could probably see yourself doing this for another 20, 30 years of your life, correct?
Hey man, if I'm given the opportunity to continue to do what I'm doing right now, as of right now, I see myself doing this for the long haul. I mean,
Hmm.
name a better city in the country to do this in. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
you're around, the top teams all the time, right? And they're not even just at the top levels. They're championship contenders. Bruins are always in the playoff mix. Celtics are going to be synonymous with the
Hmm.
championship round for years to come now. You look at the Red Sox and they should be on the upswing. Had an opportunity in 18 to cover the World Series. 21, they went to the CS. And
Hmm.
the Patriots, hopefully they have a quarterback now and they can get back to being a double-digit win team and back in the playoffs. I don't think we'll ever see what we saw for during the Brady Belichick dynasty again, but if they can just get back to the playoffs and you get a seat at the table in the postseason, you always have a chance. So being here in Boston, there's only 13 cities in the country where there's four professional sports teams. I'm
Wow.
fortunate enough and grateful to be in one of them, and I don't take that lightly. And there's also many other great stories around here to tell as well, whether it be the college or the local scene. So we've got it really good here. And I guess to answer your question, yeah, if I was fortunate enough, lucky enough, I could see myself doing this for a long time.
No, that's awesome. Obviously, probably the play-by-play is on the back burner now, seeing that you're pretty high up at seven and being the director and stuff. So, you ever see that maybe pursuing like maybe like a side gig, just doing like every once in a while, like a play-by-play for like a local game, or just gonna stick with the gig?
Yeah, I've thought about certain things like that,
Hmm.
but I think right now, you know, I think the anchoring and the reporting route, the hosting route has been good to me, and I haven't done play by play in a number of years now. Since I'd have to dig up some old tapes from college games, maybe calling, like when our women's basketball team at Quinnipiac went to the Sweet 16, or um, you know, covering the men's ice hockey team and they went to the national championship game in 2016. I mean, those are some old time tapes, but yeah, I mean, if there was an opportunity afforded to me and I could work it out, I would definitely love to get back into that because it's just a different skill set, different muscle that I haven't trained for a little while. But right now things are good. So looking to just kind of keep my head down, nose to the grind, and keep doing what I'm doing.
As I told you, obviously, I had Trey Dare a few episodes ago. He's been a hell of a reporter for many, many years, and I've seen him on Seven since God knows how long. I mean, he's been there since 2013. I could be wrong, but what's your experience and your interactions with Trey? Obviously, working side by side with one of the best in the industry.
Yeah, Trey's a great colleague. He's been here, I think it's a decade now,
Decade,
or
yep.
it's been close to a decade, maybe more
Hmm.
than a decade. I don't know the exact year,
I
but
think it might
Trey's
have
been
been
great.
2014. I could be wrong, but
14. Yeah, so
yeah.
I've known Trey now. I've been in the Boston Providence market now 7 years, going on my seventh Patriot season. So I was
Wow.
always around Trey, at Celtics games, Bruins, Red
Hmm.
Sox, Patriots, but now being able to share an office with him and work side by side with him for a year has been great. Great guy off the air. And that comes across when he's on the air. He's knowledgeable, he's passionate, he cares, and just a good guy to work with. And I think that's really important in this industry. When I answered a couple questions earlier about what stands out in my career so far, and it's the people that we cover, but also the people that we work with. I mean, Trey's right there, alongside many people that I've been fortunate enough to work with, where we spend so much time at work, and especially like this past spring, for example, right? Bruins and Celtics deep playoff runs. The Celtics were, it felt like they were playing every other day
Yeah.
from the beginning of April in the postseason. And then it was like, Wick put the team up for sale July 1st and Jason Tatum signed a contract. So, you're talking about the better part of almost 3 months. Well,
Hmm.
that's a lot of time spent with your colleagues. That's a lot of late nights. That's a lot of early mornings. And Trey is just one of a great team here at Channel 7 we have. Our photographers, Greg Glass, Nick Sapienza, who we go on the road with, Marley Weirda, one of our new additions as a reporter, Alex Dembo, Kuhn Lamb, Josh Caridio. Those are our three producers. We've got a great team. And I truly feel like we all have each other's backs. We all have each other's best interest in mind. And Trey's right there. So it's like, you spend so much time with the people that you work with in sports. because you're working nights, you're working holidays,
Yep.
you're working weekends, that they become an extension of your family. And to be able to work with a group like this, especially with Trey, who you asked the question about, I think's been one of the best parts about being at Seven. And that's a special thing. I feel like that I had in Providence, that I was fortunate enough to have with the colleagues that I had there in the sports departments that I was in, and here so far in my first year plus at Channel 7. It's just as much about the people you work with as the people you cover, and I've had nothing but great things to say about my teammates here at Seven.
Oh, that's great to hear. Another person I did want to bring up too was the former sports director, Joe Amorosino. How was your interaction with him? Because he seemed like a pretty reasonable and personable guy, being on air saying like all the sports news.
Joe's a legend around here. I mean, Massachusetts native, product of the Boys and Girls Club, big time hoop head. Started his career out on the Cape. Then he was actually at Channel 12.
Oh wow.
Kind of had a little similar path there, yeah, when he was in
Yeah.
Channel 12 for a few years there, and then he came up here, and for 25 years he set the standard. I mean, Joe is always a great guy. Every time I ran into him, and he's doing great things now in the business world. But he left quite a void, and it's on me, Trey, and Marley, and everybody here to pick up the slack every day of since he hasn't been here. Hopefully, if he's out there watching, hopefully we're making him proud, and
Yeah.
we're keeping up the long tradition of solid, fair, and exciting sports coverage here at Channel 7.
I mean, yeah, you guys do a great job. All the channels, Boston, Providence, it's always presented well. From the anchors, the reporters, field, in-house, yada yada yada. Um, Another person I did want to, sorry, I'm like going down the list here of like seven because obviously from watching over the years. Chelsea McDonald, obviously she left you guys, I believe, right?
She did.
Yeah. So what was your interaction working with her? I would hear her ask her, players, coaches questions in press conferences, and she was really, really good at what she did.
Yeah, Chelsea was a great colleague to have here during my time at Channel 7. It was a little bit under a year that I had with her, but similar to Trey, I knew her for a bunch of years because we
Hmm.
rubbed shoulders when I was in the Providence market. Being at Boston Pro Sports, and when we were in Providence, we covered the Boston Pro Sports, pretty much the same way that these guys do up here, except, when you're up here in Boston, you're at those events on a daily basis. When you're in Providence, you're at Patriots games and practices all the time on a daily basis. But, you don't get to Red Sox, Bruins, and Celtics as frequently during the
Hmm.
regular season until the postseason. So, I had a great relationship with Chelsea, and wish her all the best, in her future endeavors. I think she's, getting married this summer. So a lot of
Oh, that's
exciting things
awesome.
for her personally outside of work.
Awesome, awesome. And obviously, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did want to touch on the sports topic. What I will you be heading to Cincinnati this weekend? Are you going to travel with for the games all season, or does that kind of
Yes.
get
So we
split
have
up with you guys?
Yeah, so I'm on a flight on Saturday afternoon to go out to Cincinnati. Another season. There's a lot of question marks, but we'll see. Week ones are always interesting. I know the Patriots are the biggest underdog in the NFL, and
Hmm.
I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, I'm sure the smart money says the Bengals will win the game. Maybe the Patriots can cover and sort of keep it close, but you never know. As of right now, as of this taping, Jamar Chase practiced earlier today.
Hmm.
It's Wednesday, September 4th. He was a limited participant. We know he sat out all of training camp. It only takes one or two things for like Jamar Chase not to play. Maybe the Patriots defense continues to play the way they did last year. Jacoby Brissett doesn't turn the ball over as much as Mac Jones did last year, and you could just catch the Bengals sleeping. The Bengals have started the season 0-2 in 3 out of the last 4 seasons. So they're known under Joe Burrow to start off slow. And if Jacoby Brissett can come out and manage the game well, and the Patriots can run the football, if they can have an early touchdown, if they can play from ahead, if they can just play even, they'll be able to control the clock a little bit, and you never know. I'm still going to lean and say the Bengals will win the game, but I think this team could be competitive on the sole fact that if they just don't turn the ball over as much on offense, I think it could be a competitive game. And I think they can have a chance, you know, to be right there in the second half, in the fourth quarter. And it'll be interesting. There's so many new pieces to this team, right? The head coach, the
Mhm.
offensive coordinator, the quarterback are the main three that get the talk. But the offensive line, how about the young receiver and Jalen Polk? Will Javon Baker play after what happened on Instagram? Christian Gonzalez is back. I mean, it's truly a blank slate, right? This is truly the first year of a rebuild post Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. First time in a long time that both of them aren't here. And it's going to be a slow and arduous season, but as long as you can note some progress individually and collectively, then the Patriots should be better come 2025.
Seeing you probably covered obviously throughout training camp, from the draft, the whole offseason. What is your mid expectations, I guess, throughout from week to week with this team, from Cincinnati to basically Seattle for the home opener a week from Sunday? I mean, there's a lot weighing on Coach Mayo, Brissett's shoulders. Could we see May within the first 6 to 8 weeks? And that's what everybody's predicting, that you're either going to sit the kid for a year or you're going to play Drake within the first 6 to 8 weeks. So what's your thought really on the quarterback situation, in other words?
It all depends. It all depends on what happened. There's a lot of factors, right? There's injuries and health
Hmm.
that you have to take into account. What's the state of the offensive line? What's the win-loss record? But the one thing I think that's important to point out is that Gerard Mayo said a couple days ago that if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, and I'm quoting him here, the Patriots feel 1,000%. That was what he used, 1,000%
1,000.
ready, um, and have 1,000% belief in Drake May to be the backup quarterback. So if he gets hurt, like Aaron Rodgers did last year, on the fourth snap of week one, Drake May is going to play the full season. So there's a good chance that Drake May could play in week one, in week two, in week three. I mean, injuries happen. We saw what happened in the final preseason game against the Commanders. If there's a misstep and there's lack of communication on the offensive line, and Trey Hawkinson gets freed up and he can come in and lay a sack on Jacoby Brissett, you never know. So if everything goes, now if we flip the switch and it's a perfect world, I'm not sure. I'm not sure when you'd play Drake May. I don't think you play him the first month. There's a lot of playoff contenders, a lot of veteran teams there, and in the first four teams that you're going to play. But maybe you'd like to start him at home in October. In the month of October, in the 4 games, you're playing 3 at home, 1 in London, or maybe you wait until right before the bye, so that he plays a game and then he has 2 weeks to look at the film, assess his play, get feedback, continue to build rapport with the players, and then end the last few games of the season. And that would be, so their bye is 14, so that would be 15, 16, 17, 18. So that would be the last 5 games of the season if you were to start in week 13. So there's many different spots, but the fact, I think the biggest takeaway is he will be playing if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, because there was talk late in training camp before roster cutdown saying, hey, if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt in the first 4 to 6 weeks, like, will the Patriots just sign a veteran off the street as a stopgap
Oh no.
if they don't feel Drake May is ready? Is it worth keeping Bailey Zappi because he's got some experience to put in the first month or so if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, to keep Drake May on the sideline and let him continuing, to improve and evolve? That's not the way they feel. They feel that Drake May is more than ready on Sunday to play against the Bengals should something happen to Jacoby Brissett. So I know that's a little bit of a non-answer there, but I think I laid it out where, the team feels comfortable, and I think you should play the kid. Gerard Mayo said it today in his press conference that the only way you get better at playing football is by playing football.
Hmm.
So they feel Drake May is ready to play in an NFL game. And if the situation presents itself, whether it's the coach's decision or it's out of necessity because of an injury, then Drake May will be out there. And I think that's what every fan's looking forward to most, aside from a competitive season that Jacoby Brissett would lead, where the Patriots somehow hang in the playoff picture, late into the month of November and into December.
With that said, I feel like you said that great, but I feel like the kid should just start week one. Get his confidence up, get him used to this offense with AVP and Mayo at, combined in there. And I just feel like he should just start week 1. I know it's against Cincinnati. They're a playoff team. They got a lot of emotions with Burrow coming back. There's a lot going on, but I just feel like he just accepted the fact I'm a backup, and whenever my time is ready and I'm called upon, I'm going to be stepping up to the plate and just trying to take a swing at it. So, I mean, I just don't know what to expect this year. I got always high hopes every single year the past 4 or 5 seasons since Brady left, and it's always like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, the gap as the games progress, and especially going 4-13 last year, I just couldn't see the team going up from there. I'm like everybody else, but I'm trying to be optimistic. So we'll see what happens with this team. I mean, I wish you nothing but the best, obviously, with a safe trip there, and hopefully they come back with a W with yourself. So
That would change season expectations dramatically if they could somehow go to Cincinnati and win, and then they'd come home, and
and
I
be
don't know if they'd be
possibly
favored.
2 and
I
0.
I
Yeah.
don't know if they'd be favored against the Seahawks, but it'd be close to a push, and have an opportunity to start the season 2-0. And I mean, what would Gillette Stadium be like if they beat the Bengals on the road week 1 and they come back? That'd be quite a home opener. To have that excitement, that
Hmm.
energy in Foxborough, and then you're right into a quick week 3 because they play the Jets on Thursday night. So, you've got to take it one game at a time. You've got to handle the Bengals first. But if they somehow beat the Bengals, there'll be a lot of talk around here about a competitive season and about a season that we didn't quite expect from the outset, based on what we saw the last time they were on a game field
Hmm.
against Washington with their top guys out there outside of David
They
Andrews
definitely
and
struggled.
facing backups and third strings. So, um, yeah, it would change a lot if somehow they could go to Cincinnati and pull that out.
How much time do we have left on your end?
I got some more time. Let's whatever questions you have, I'm here to answer them.
Okay. All right. I didn't mean to just kind of change the subject, but yeah, I just didn't want to take up because I knew you got stuff going on at work. Um, Sticking with the Patriots, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. What was like your initial reaction to the Judon trade and getting what a third, fourth round pick we got for him a few weeks ago to Atlanta?
Yep, third round pick. I was
Not
I
shocked.
was I was surprised. I was surprised with the return that Elliott
Hmm.
Wolf got. This is a guy who, again, coming off of an injury, over 30 years old, didn't seem like they were really close to signing an extension here in New England.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have a guy who, was still going to play this year had he been here, but you were able to get something for next year, a top 100 draft pick, I think was great work. I think around the league, if you would have asked some executives and some personnel, directors of player personnel, I think a fourth or a fifth, because there's only 1 year left on his deal and he was coming off the injury, like I mentioned. But I mean, to get a third round pick, it's exactly what this team needs. I know it's not fun during the season to think, when you're in October and November, and if the season gets away from you, to think about the following year and, not necessarily playing for wins, but more playing certain guys so that you can be atop the draft board. But that's what this team needs right now. They need another top 1, 2, 3 pick. Maybe because they feel they have the quarterback now this year, going into next year, they feel like they can trade down a little bit, get an offensive tackle, acquire another pick. I mean, they need as many darts as possible to throw at the dartboard in the top 100 picks. And to add another one for a guy who wasn't going to play much here, this year. And even if he was going to play here, you wouldn't have been able to get a third for him at the trade deadline had he performed well. It would have been probably a fourth, maybe a fifth, because half the season would have passed, more than half the
Yeah.
season. I thought it was, I thought you could really tip your cap to Elliott Wolf, and his team for getting that pick back from Atlanta.
I mean, obviously the third round pick, it was like, yeah, you could have got more possibly, but the third round pick, everybody seemed pretty happy with, obviously hearing it all over like the radio and the media and stuff like that. But I feel like I don't know if he was going to play at 100%. I mean, obviously he was disgruntled with the contract. You've seen his emotions, obviously, during training camp, how he just kind of walked away from Mayo after that little argument, whatever you want to call it. But and then he came back on the field, so it was like a weird situation. But no, I mean, fresh start in Atlanta, see how he does. Obviously, that defense, talking about Atlanta, they got Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell. They got a good few options, and I think Atlanta will be good. But jumping back to the Patriots and staying on defense, losing Barmore obviously to blood cuts. I wish him nothing but the best. How big is that going to basically affect the defense on obviously the front seven or whatever you want to call it, in other words?
It's going to affect the defense. I think it's going to affect the offense. It's going to affect
Hmm.
everybody. I mean, he's that big of a player. I mean, I know when he went down, it was still all the talk about the quarterback controversy. There's a lot of still the talk about Gerard Mayo going through his first training camp. A lot of talk still about the offensive line, and maybe there just hasn't been enough time, or maybe we haven't done enough to talk about the loss that he's going to present for the Patriots. But I mean, he changes everything, in my opinion. I
Hmm.
mean, the Patriots, were one of the best defenses in the league last year. I believe it was the final 7, 8 weeks. I could be wrong. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I mean, they were just as good, if not better, than the Chiefs, than the Ravens. I mean, that Ravens defense was great last year. The Chiefs defense was tremendous in the AFC Championship game to get them to the Super Bowl. And that was no Christian Gonzalez and no Matthew Judon. But Christian Barmore had really started to assert himself as one of, a young up and coming premier pass rusher in this league. And he's going to affect the defense, his absence, and he's going to affect the offense because, in certain situations, are you going to punt the ball and then try to rely on your defense? Yeah, if he's playing in the game, you're going to say, okay, yeah, no, we've got a great pass rusher. Then we've got a couple other guys behind him. We seemingly have a good secondary. We've got a captain in Juwan Bentley in the middle of the field as a linebacker. I mean, you could feel confident in the
Hmm.
defense. Now there's this massive hole there where, all right, we know that the defense is, again, going to be relied upon heavily this year. I'm not sure with the loss of Barmore if they can help win games like they have the last couple of years. They're going to still win you a game or two, but it's just a lot more reps for a guy, whoever fills in for him, and the collective guys that fill in for him. It's going to be a lot more reps of players that are far less talented than what Barmore was, and what Barmore is. So I think he affects the team greatly. And I'm just not sure if defensively they can hold up for the duration of the season without him.
Yeah, definitely be a tough void to fill, whoever it is. Could be Jeremiah Farms. Devon Godchaux just got re-upped as well. So obviously they must have somebody on the back burner to fill his spot. But what's your opinion with Christian Gonzalez coming back from his injury that he suffered in Dallas last year? I mean, there's been talks. He's been one of the best corners. Obviously, I think he won like maybe AFC Rookie of the Month last year. If I could be wrong, obviously in September because he only played like September and the half a game in Dallas. So what's your thoughts on his 2024 outlook, basically being an extended rookie season?
It basically is the rookie season again. I think it's
Hmm.
good that he's going to come into this season with confidence, knowing that he can play in this league because he got 3+ games last year,
Yep.
but he still hasn't played a full NFL season. So it's like what he could show really well when everyone's fresh and everyone is still excited about football through 4 weeks, through 6 weeks, through 8 weeks. What's going to happen the second half of the season, right? When your body starts to hurt, it's
Hmm.
tougher to get in early. You know, if the season isn't going the way the Patriots hope, how does that take a mental toll on you? I mean, there's so many other things that he hasn't experienced because he hasn't seen a full NFL season yet. But it is like a rookie plus season, you could say, because he's not going into this season and going into Sunday's game in Cincinnati saying, what's it like to travel for a road game in the NFL? What's it like to play in a road environment in the NFL? I mean, he's done a few of those things, so he doesn't have to think about things that aren't going to come up during the
Hmm.
game. It's really X's and O's for him now, but he also, the other part of it is he kind of has a lot to live up to. I mean, he played really well, was the AFC Rookie of the Month in September, and then he was billed as, once he got hurt, as this guy who is going to be this shutdown corner for years to come. And like he's still really young and he's still only played 3 NFL games. So I think we have to be cautious
Yeah.
of how much we talk about this guy and the type of light that we put him in, because it will still only be his fifth start of his career come
Hmm.
Sunday. So he still has to prove and he has to live up to this hype that is definitely warranted um, because of the way he played last year. But I mean, people are talking about him as if he had this spectacular entire rookie season or he played 10 plus games at an
Yeah.
elite level. Still only played a couple of weeks. And there
Hmm.
wasn't enough film on him where late in the season, guys could look at some
Figure
of
it
his
out.
tendencies early on and figure him out. So it'll be interesting, but he's going to be one of your starting cornerbacks. Gerard Mayo, again, to quote something he said today in today's press conference. He said he believes he has all the tools to be an elite cornerback in this league. And for a guy who's been in charge of the defense for the last 5 years, and I know he didn't have the defensive coordinator title, but
Hmm.
he was there helping lead the meetings with alongside of Steve Belichick. I think that's pretty high praise to come from a coach who played on the defensive side of the ball, played in the league at a high level. He wouldn't just say that without truly believing it. So now it's up to Christian Gonzalez to go and back it up and see if
Yeah,
he
for
can
sure.
walk the walk as well.
For sure. And Maury, I appreciate you joining the podcast. I really do. Thank you for taking the time. I didn't mind the little delay as well. And, feel free to throw out to everybody your socials where they can find you. And definitely check him out on Channel 7. He's a hell of a person. So,
Yeah, no, well, thank you. Yeah, Channel 7 during the week. Sunday night Sports Extra 11:35 on WHDH. The good thing is if you're not in the area, if you've got YouTube TV, because I know we're not on YouTube TV, you can always stream our shows from a phone, from a tablet, wherever. 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11. And we're gonna be on the road with the Pats again, and soon enough we'll be on the road with the Bruins and the Celtics in the playoffs. So it's always weird. It's always like, I always feel like the start of football season is the start of a new sports calendar,
yeah.
even though we're 9 months, 8 months into in
Hmm.
8 months into the calendar year, so to speak. But it always gets a little bit slow there in July and August. And
Yep.
now it's college football, pro football's back. You know the drill, right? I mean, hockey and basketball are right around the corner, and it'll really, we'll be moving and shaking until late June, hopefully again. With the Celtics, hopefully it's banner 19 in 10 months from now. So ready to get on the saddle. Had a couple good weeks of vacation and some good family time this summer, and now we're ready to go. And it starts on Sunday in Cincy.
Sounds good. Thank you, Maury.
Take care. Thanks, Ken.